Hello and welcome to TNA Top 10 Football Edition. I'm T Weave, your host. With me, as always, is your other host, Andrew, and we're going to talk week 3 college football and look forward to week 4. It's getting good, Andrew.
We getting ready. We getting warmed up. We got a few surprises this week. I found Terry for the benefit of our viewers because I've already told you and our listeners, which we love and appreciate. I have found that I'm a lot better on the program than I am on the ESPN app because we pick games that actually matter to talk about, discuss, and then predict. And ESPN app that I am currently losing, I am 16 and 14, and we'll get to that later in the show. I am just above 500. I'm going to tell you right now, they have, if you look at this week's games as to what they're having us predict winners and losers for, Terry, it's not exciting. We're going to have a lot more predicting winners.
Sorry, I didn't respond quickly because I just realized I forgot to load the slides for the graphics.
That's okay. I'll filibuster while you load.
So I will do this.
I'm talking. You work. I got this. So
it's
anyway,
live. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is what happens when we produce live on the air. Terry's doing TNA Top 10. We're ready to rock and roll. But here's the thing about these predictions. Other than Florida State and thinking that Kentucky was going to get blown out by Georgia because of the way they played ball, I have been damn near perfect on this show with what I've said analysis-wise when I'm not just screwing around yelling "Go Big Red" for Nebraska. I don't have a clue as to who the hell is going to win between ECU and Appalachian State. And I live in the state. And I don't care. I don't care. But I happen to pick that one right, I think. App State pulled it off.
Oh, is that one? That is one of them we picked in the.
Yeah.
So here's your reminder. Here's the thing. I'm not going out of my way to remind my competition to pick their games for the week. So don't expect me to put any kind of reminder on social media. If you joined, you're an adult, probably. It is your responsibility to remember that.
That is debatable when you're talking to me, sir, as was well established on this show.
Well, you're an adult. You may not act like an adult.
I just don't act like it. Sophomore class field trip. We're 15 forever. So not 15 and forever. But are we good with the slides?
The slides are what they are. They are there. I put some extra stuff because you added some games that I had not created graphics for, so I had to come home from work and hurriedly put those in. But I did it. I'm a team player here. Well,
that wasn't the question. I meant, did you have them in the show now so we can move forward?
Oh, you should be able to see them. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, the group chat. I can't see them because I don't have authority. You and Allison, for whatever reason, do not trust me with the clicker, despite the fact I host the Medusa podcast every other Tuesday.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? First game we're going to talk about is UNLV and Kansas.
Whoa. Back up. Did you see the notes? I made notes.
Yes.
We have opening stories. Take that graphic down.
Get to them.
What are you doing to me? Okay, real quick. This is how the conversation goes before we get on the air. You all just get to see it live. Opening stories, Terry. Oregon, Tennessee.
I'll sit back and I'll listen to you.
No, you're good. Oregon, Tennessee, Notre Dame roll. You questioned whether Oregon State and Oregon, you thought it'd be a field goal game. I thought it would be a blowout. Oregon runs the damn ball, and all of a sudden they win 49-14, and their defense showed up after weeks in hiding. I don't know where it happened. I don't know. But Oregon is back. Tennessee beat the crap out of insignificant team number 3. And according to our favorite baker on Facebook, Mr. Carl, they are winning the national championship as we speak. And Notre Dame, after a lackluster performance against Northern Illinois, scored more points in the team's history than they have, I guess, in over 100 years, something like that. They put 66 on Purdue after not being able to catch a cold last week. So
who was it that scored? South Alabama scored 87 this weekend.
And was it enough to win?
Yeah. Yeah. So they were 80 at the end of the third quarter and just scored a touchdown in the fourth, but 87-13 or something like that. I don't remember who they played.
Two more things and we'll move on. Arch Manning took over for an injured Quinn Ewers in the Texas game, threw 5 touchdowns. They weren't playing anybody. No one get excited. Quinn Ewers' injury is not as bad as they thought it would be. They think he'll miss the Louisiana-Monroe game. Big deal. And then they have an off week, and then they have Oklahoma. So,
And we'll get into that too. We're gonna. My
Quinn will be
graphics
back.
are good this week.
Oh,
Let
I
me
got
tell
you.
you.
And then Michigan benches their quarterback after three, Terry. 1, 2, 3 interceptions to Gus Malzahn's former team, Arkansas State. 3 interceptions to Arkansas State. Michigan has announced that the backup will start this weekend against USC, which we will get to on your stories. Last thing, just to get everybody primed, because you know I am. Texas jumps Georgia in the AP poll for number 1. And that's where we are this week.
And Arch Manning also ran the ball. As Peyton says, his father's speed skipped a generation, and it landed on Arch. So we got a little taste of that this week. But he's probably going to go back on the bench after dominating. I think it was UTSA, UT San Antonio.
Yeah, he's going to play against Monroe, Louisiana Monroe, more than likely. The abdominal strain wasn't as bad. I had speculated in a group chat that I'm in that, look, how are you going to take – if Arch does what he's supposed to do, and it was several weeks, how are you going to put Ewers back in, you know? But if it's only a game or two, that conversation's a lot easier to have.
Especially if they're playing nobody still.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they played Michigan, obviously, but.
Yeah. But so let's go into Kansas dropping the ball.
Can I flip the slide now? Can I?
I've got the stage set. UNLV is 3-0. I watched this game at the gym. It was on Friday. We had thought Kansas was going to be a team in the Big 12 that could compete. Buddy, they're looking like the Jayhawks of old that are a basketball school. UNLV just relentless with their defense. They only let them, complete 50% of the passes. 2 turnovers. Turnovers matter, as we've talked about.
Turnovers killed them in this game, yeah.
And the second half, Kansas was held to a field goal. And, UNLV only wins 23-20, but UNLV is not supposed to be able to even play with Kansas. Let's face it.
Well, if the Pac-12 is looking to add teams, and that's a story we didn't really get into, UNLV's sitting there. That's a great team to go after.
Yeah, they're in the Mountain West, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're about to rob half of the Mountain West.
Yeah. So this is a great football team. Very well coached, very well disciplined, and I think that this is going to be a team to watch. They're not going to beat anybody that we care about too much, Terry.
Right.
But UNLV could win 8 or 9 games pretty easily.
They're going to be like Fresno State was 15 years ago.
No. Next up,
sad to say, but Florida State drops to 0-3. But I saw this, I saw Memphis on the schedule after they dropped the first 2 games, and I'm like, Memphis is not who you want to play for that third game after you've dropped 2, and it happened. Florida State could not get any offense going.
So in a loud, clear voice, I want to apologize to our audience for thinking that Florida State was going to win the ACC championship.
I did too.
This is a reevaluation of Florida State. And in all seriousness, 2 fumbles and interception, DJ not being able to push the ball down the field, 1.5 yards a carry, Terry. Your offensive line is not winning the battle on the line of scrimmage.
No.
They weren't very good on defense, in my opinion. Dave said he thought the defensive line looked better this time around than the offensive line. That's our buddy Dave in the HSV. Huge Florida State guy, big contributor. Very disappointed this year with their 0-3 start, and I get it.
We got the sound effect. It's been a while. We haven't been throwing them in lately. Thanks.
I get it, though, why he's so disappointed. But Florida State, for all the money, all the talent, the NIL, the 5-star recruits, all of the bluster after last year that we belong, we're entitled to that 4-team playoff.
Right.
You certainly have done yourselves no favors. Thoughts and prayers to Dave and the HSV.
That came from Talking Wrestling.
Talking Wrestling with Palm Water. I know who's controlling that account tonight. But no, in all seriousness, Florida State can still win the ACC championship, believe it or not.
They got to figure out how to move the ball.
I
You
don't
give
know
it to
that
the
they
other
beat
team.
Clemson though now, buddy. I just this team, the way they're playing with bad offensive line play, no rushing game, and a quarterback who is marginal at best. And I believe I said he was marginal at best when Dabo fired his ass 2 years ago. Who is worse, Mississippi State or Mississippi State?
It's definitely Mississippi State. I mean, Florida State's not doing well, but Mississippi State is horrific.
Talk about laying an egg. They lost to Toledo or something, and they lost like what 41-17 or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't close. But the other problem I have with this, Terry, let's finish up the Florida State conversation real quick, and I want to get your thoughts. This is at home. They weren't playing in Memphis.
That's what I thought might do it for them, but it didn't.
I mean, in Florida, in Tallahassee, this is not good. This is not good at all. And I
think they probably have a good enough defense to compete, but this offense ain't doing it.
Well, and they have had the benefit for years of having Jimbo Fisher, his recruits, Bobby Bowden before him. Let's not talk about Willie Taggart because he was awful. Right. But they had the benefit of having offensive recruits that all went to the NFL. They don't have that this year. You can't point to me somebody on Florida State's offense that I would say, oh, yeah, that's a round one pick. Definitely. And the problem is, as Dave pointed out when he joined us on the show, that's what everybody thought they were going to be. And we're not the only ones that were wrong. There are people that get paid a lot of money on ESPN to talk about football, and they didn't get it right either. So definitely Mississippi State is worse. Now, if that was a Florida question, which we're going to get to, Terry, thoughts on this one, and then let's click to the next game, because I think I put 10 of them in here for us.
I don't know. I think 0-3 is not great. You know, this was not the team you wanted to play after going 0-2 to start out. And then you're gonna start out with some ACC competition, and it doesn't start out easy. We'll talk about that game later and talk about what we think is going to happen, but it's not looking good. There's no easy win coming up.
Nope, not at all. They got to get it cleaned up. They got to start playing football because they have championship caliber or suspected championship caliber recruits and transfers, and they're not getting the job done in Tallahassee.
All right, let's move on to the next one. We got Alabama headed to Wisconsin, and just, it was just grind it out and win it and continually keep your foot on their throats the whole game and don't give up much on defense. Alabama doesn't look much different this year than they've looked, honestly.
Couple points on this game. Tyler Van Dyke, first series out of the game for Wisconsin, the Miami transfer. He is out. His knee, again, another knee injury. And that happened on the opening drive, I believe, or the second drive. It was early in the game. Now, Alabama, because we're going to have a really good football game in 12 days when Alabama plays Georgia. But Alabama's offense is very, very, very dangerous. They can go 5 wide, and you still have to account for Jalen Monroe. They can play double tight formation. They can run the power I. They can run veer, as you called it earlier, meaning option football. They can go over the top. He runs the mid routes. You can run the wheel. You can run the crosser. You can run the slant. Alabama has a pro-style offense. The Kalen DeBoer effect is in full force there in Tuscaloosa. The defense did enough here in Wisconsin. Camp Randall Stadium is somebody who's watched this game a long time, meaning Wisconsin. Nebraska gets their ass kicked every time they go to Camp Randall. But here in Wisconsin, you don't have the benefit of a White. You didn't have, I just lost his name, Melvin Gordon, running the ball down your throat. Russell Wilson as a quarterback here. But Alabama proved they are a top 5 team in the country this week, Terry. And they proved offensively they can hang with the Tennessees and the Ole Misses of the SEC because, again, he can go from double tight to 3 wide to 5 wide. And if you're playing man-to-man 5 wide, you still have to account for the damn quarterback because he'll burn your ass with his legs. So they are a complete offense at Alabama. They also got both of their tackles back. They hadn't played all year with both tackles in position, dinged up injuries, etc. You get that offensive line gelled together. You get them believing in Milroe and what he's doing for the offense. Roll Tide and Roll Tide all day long.
And Georgia's not making it look like they're gonna absolutely be the team, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But obviously, we talked about Texas being great. Alabama is, yeah. We don't have to put that on there. Um, Alabama's still there. Obviously, Georgia going to Kentucky, like I said, we'll talk about in a minute, didn't look fantastic in top of the conference. And there's plenty of teams to compete with that. So if they don't show up, teams like this are going to take over. Why don't we move to the next game? And that is Texas A&M at Florida. And final score's 33-20, but it was not that close. That's trash time points for Florida in the second half. Texas A&M put it on them in the swamp.
Billy Napier will not survive this season. This is the second game that you and I circled on the calendar in our preseason discussion that Florida had an opportunity to win. They are running out of games that they can actually win, Terry. UCF is undefeated, by the way. Old Gus has got it going on with his with KJ Jefferson there at Central Florida. A&M dominated all facets of this game. Offense, defense, special teams. Look at the graphic down at the bottom. 3 interceptions. We talked about this last week. This will be a recurring theme, I'm sure, throughout the football season.
Yeah.
You turn the ball over, you're not going to win. Here's the other thing. In the SEC, 52 rushing yards. Or 52. 52 yards. 2.1.
52 yards, yeah.
2.1 a carry. Embarrassing.
It is.
Embarrassing.
At home in one of the toughest stadiums to play in. It has not been that tough lately because they're just not the team to make it tough.
No, and A&M, got into that dogfight with Notre Dame and couldn't close it out in their own stadium. They go on the road, Florida, big signature win for Elko, get the thing going the right way. But 5.6 yards a rush, 178 yards passing, Terry. I mean, A&M is not the cat's meow of the SEC, but that's a dangerous football team if they can continue to play like that.
Well, A&M, they've had recruits come in. Now, they had some guys leave when Jimbo got fired and Elko came in, but they've still got some studs. And if he can pull them together, they've got some firepower there. But
and they're not afraid to tell anybody, not to interrupt you, they're not afraid to tell anybody the 12th man will just pull the checkbook out and they'll write the number. What's the number? What number do you need? I mean, that's what happens when there's old oil money. It's about like the Oregon guy from Nike. He said, "Hey, what's the number? What number do you need for NIL money? We'll get everybody here you need to win a championship."
Yeah, so, I need Apple to do that for Auburn, but
Terry, who's up next?
The next game is LSU at South Carolina, and it looked like Carolina was going to run away with this at one point, but LSU stormed back.
Yeah. You could
see turnovers all over the place.
Yeah, this was pretty sloppy in Columbia, South Carolina, home of the game. Cox. I mean, again, 400 yards offense. LSU's defense is and don't get me wrong, the Gamecocks offense is much improved, but this is not a top-tier offense that LSU is going to see this year. Their defense supposedly was better this year than they were last year. That's a lie. And Nussmeier is not Daniels, who, by the way, won his game yesterday with the help of a kicker who went 7 for 7 for Washington, kicking field goals. So I watched a lot of this game at work with the rain and the storm coming in and all that crap. LSU Brian Kelly's going to have an offense, but they're not going to play defense. They did force 2 fumbles and an interception, but I think the Gamecocks are a team that could be dangerous again in the SEC. But don't get it twisted. I'm not thinking they're going to compete for a SEC title or whatever. These are 6-6, 7-5 teams, Terry, but there's a lot of them in the SEC right now.
There are, and they can find the right Saturday to pick somebody off that's above them. It happens.
Yeah, because we're going to talk about Kentucky, and they're in the same category as both, A&M and the Gamecocks.
Well, look, 243 rushing yards for South Carolina. I mean, they were able to run the ball well, but if you need to come back. not being able to pass is not helping.
Well, and the kicker missed a tying field goal to send it to overtime. So,
Yeah.
it was a special teams play that didn't get the game locked down, although they had opportunity to close it down and they let LSU breathe. And like you said, Terry, in the SEC, you better have a killer instinct and you better be able to put someone to sleep. And that's all there is to it.
All right, let's move elsewhere in the SEC as Boston College comes to Missouri, and I believe BC had a little lead early, but Missouri did it. Got them by a
Tigers,
lot of yards, and did not turn the ball over. And we talk about the same things: play defense, hold on to the football, and
yeah,
win the
they ended
line
up
of scrimmage.
settling for a couple field goals. Missouri did. Um, In fact, I think they went 2 field goals in the second quarter and a touchdown with a 2-point conversion. That's how they got to 14 in the second quarter. They did not score 2 touchdowns, I don't
Okay.
believe. 440, so their offense is still good. No turnovers, very clean. Boston College comes to play, though. Missouri's defense shut down that run game that tore the Seminoles apart on the defensive line. But look at your passing line, 249 yards. So if you focus on one, sometimes you give up the other. But the 2 interceptions certainly hurt BC. But BC wasn't supposed to win this game. They weren't even supposed to be in this game. The
Right.
line on the game was 16 and a half. They lose by 6.
Right.
And that's with a first-year head coach. Granted, he's been everywhere and he's done everything, but he didn't have his recruits necessarily, at least a year or 2 into the system. So they're going to be very good. Boston College is going to be one of those teams I think compete in the ACC. If we're going to do a reevaluation of that entire conference at some point, they should be in the conversation.
Well, I mean, you're right. If we reevaluated today, I mean, who's looking great in the ACC? Florida State's who we both picked to win, and that's obviously not who looks the best.
Right.
Clemson, Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe BC is one of the top teams. Georgia Tech still looks good. They have a loss, but they still look pretty good.
Right. Right. Yeah, and that's where it becomes that wide open thing. Or just Clemson just finally decide to find who they are and go to
Right.
work.
Oh, Miami.
That's the other
That's
one.
that's the cream of the crop right now.
Yeah. Cat's ass for sure.
And I even forgot about them sitting here talking about it.
Yep. Well, they were in the big or the
They're a Big East team.
So long. Yeah, they were in the Big East.
I'm old. They're a Big East team.
That's a
Let's
basketball
move
conference.
along.
Tell them, Terry.
West
That's a basketball
Virginia
conference.
and Pitt, big game, big rivalry here, and Pittsburgh walks away with 38-34 win. And that'll make Mike Bober happy that we're talking about Pittsburgh because I got a DM from him saying we need to give Pittsburgh a little more love this week.
Another 1 score into the game.
Yep.
Forced turnover. Pitt wins the game. And Pitt was one of those in the ACC that I honestly picked to finish toward the bottom because they have not been good in recent years. And I understand
we expected West Virginia to be pretty good, and they've
and they are, and they turn the ball over. This is
right.
Between this game and Penn State. Is that 6 turnovers now in 2 games?
Lot, yeah.
If not 7. So you start turning the ball over like that. We talk about it every week. You don't win ball games. You do not win football games. You turn the ball over.
Right. Because, I mean, Pittsburgh didn't run the ball well. They got 78 yards, less than 3 yards a carry. I mean, they were one-dimensional. But you turn the ball over twice. Yeah, I mean, they didn't have to run the ball, I guess. If you hand them the ball, it'll work.
And close all the way, as you would expect with these 2 teams, based on the rivalry.
Yeah, they were tied at the end of the third quarter. And Pittsburgh got 2 touchdowns, and West Virginia got 10 points in the fourth.
Yep. Good football game.
All right, here we go. Georgia at Kentucky. This was a big shocker. We know that Stoops has these guys coached up, but Kentucky doesn't have nearly as many studs normally, you would think. They play good defense, and that's what happened here. They played very good defense. And Georgia got lucky to walk away with a win here.
Georgia was still bigger, stronger, meaner, faster, more physically imposing. They should be. The talent level's there. You won't look at a box score and think that Georgia had a much better football team that night, Terry. But they did. They didn't execute. They didn't complete. They didn't do what Georgia has done for years, and that's play to their standard. Now, it's a little unfair because it is the first SEC road game, and they historically are bad in the first SEC road games. Yep. And Mark Stoops has Dabo's number, if anybody does. Or not Dabo, excuse me. Kirby's number.
Kirby.
He has Kirby's number if anybody has Kirby's number because he knows what they're going to do. You know why? Because he's doing the same thing in Kentucky. They play the same sort of defense, the same sort of offense. They try to do the same things. The Kentucky quarterback, whose name escapes me, was the Georgia backup last year. So, I mean, they know the tendencies. They had the scouting report on everybody. And Carson Beck isn't doing anything different than he did last year.
Brock Vandegrift.
Vandegrift was the backup to Carson Beck and the one who won the championship. So, anyway, great game if you like good defense. I caught the end of it because I was preoccupied with my football team winning.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, I know the beauty of Hulu is I can rewind and watch and go back. But I'm very shocked Georgia didn't win this by 30. And that was one of the things that you and I both predicted is they were going to blow Kentucky out because they are so much more physically imposing. They're such a bigger, stronger, more established veteran group. Stoops has his number. They get out of there with a 1-point win, and it cost them the number 1 rank in the country.
At least for the AP poll. Who knows for the TNA poll? We don't know that yet.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I'm talking about the AP riders. Texas jumps, of course, and Texas played Michigan, but Georgia beat Clemson. So is Clemson and Michigan on the same plane of existence? Because if that's the case, Georgia whooped Clemson's ass. And I'm not saying Texas didn't do the same thing to Michigan. The difference, I guess, would be Michigan was at the big house, and Georgia and Clemson were in Atlanta, which might as well be between the hedges there in Athens.
I know this gets picky, but Michigan won by, 10 points against Arkansas State this weekend?
They did.
So we don't really know where they fall at this point. We know they got trashed by Texas. Yeah.
I don't think they're a good football team. And I told you I didn't think they'd be a good football team. But we'll see how that plays out because we didn't think Washington was a good football team either. So.
Well, this year, I mean, you mentioned the Oregon State-Oregon game. We also had Washington State, and Washington
Apple
State
Cup, baby.
won that. Yeah. So that was good that they had both of those this weekend.
Yep. The Civil War and the Apple Cup. Oh,
all right. Goodness. So let me get ready to talk about this. New Mexico comes to Auburn. Hank Brown is the starter for Auburn. So here's what I don't get. So last week, Auburn plays California and played great defense, honestly, made some adjustments in the second half and locked it down. And the quarterback could not quit throwing it to the other team. So then this week they make a quarterback change, and Hank Brown came in and did a great job, but the secondary couldn't stop crap. And our running backs fumbled. Now, they ran the ball well. They were really good helping Hank Brown come in. Playing against New Mexico. This is not an SEC game. End up winning 45-19. They gave up a lot of yards for those 19 yards, but they locked it down when they got in the red zone. You know, so that's probably the kind of defense we're going to see. They were missing Cam Coleman, the biggest receiver, the true freshman. So that hurt. But, you know, the passing game looked good. The running game looked good other than the 2 fumbles. The defense needs to get better. And we're about to see Arkansas next week. And if the defense doesn't get better, it's not going to be good.
Bobby Petrino's going to shred you guys.
Yeah, we can only hope for a shootout.
Yeah.
But we need our weapons to come back. But like I said, Hank Brown got in there and he did great. He made good decisions. He made good throws. It started getting rainy. You see that they only scored 3 in the second quarter. It got really rainy at that point. So his passes were off a little bit. Probably blame it on that. But I don't know. We'll see. It's hard to tell, like with a team like this, because you hear, oh, they've got a really good offense for a non-power conference team, but what does that even mean?
Right.
Auburn's got a habit of making quarterbacks look very good, and that's kind of what they did this week.
Maybe undeservingly.
Yeah, undeservingly. But this team's coached by Brock Mendenhall, who was
Bronco.
the
Yeah, Bronco.
Bronco. I say
Yeah.
Brock. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bronco Mendenhall. But he coached BYU for like a decade. For those that
And he went to
remember him,
Virginia too.
went to Virginia, and then he ended up at New Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah. So my thought, looking at this only, is that obviously Auburn's offense can ball, but if your defense is stopping points, but you're
Yeah,
bending. The problem is you can't give a good team like a Tennessee or an
right.
Alabama or a Ole Miss an opportunity like that to score.
Or even in Arkansas. I mean,
Yeah. And
Arkansas is going to be capable of doing
I
it.
was teasing you about Bobby Petrino shredding you, but you guys saw what the offense. You saw what offense he called, and whether you like Bobby Petrino or not, and all the shenanigans and everything, the man knows offensive
He
football,
does.
and he knows how to exploit weaknesses in other teams. So I agree with you, Terry. I would be a little bit concerned about Arkansas. Try to get some of that cleaned up. 2 fumbles. Is that the rain, or is that?
I don't know. I think we got some running backs that fumble the ball. I mean, this is something like I'd made comments online about they need to run the ball a lot more because Jarquez Hunter, preseason All SEC first team selection by the coaches, and coming into this game he had 16 carries, and I said that's just ridiculous. But then the response I got was he can't hold on to the ball. But these are not both his fumbles. It was one from him and one from um, another running back. But we got to hold on to the ball better. We're really giving it up a lot. But we did get 2 interceptions. Our defense has not been getting the ball, and it did in this game. Maybe it'll pick up a little bit.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully so.
Well, let's move on to the other one, and I'll sit back and listen and see what you got to say here.
Yeah,
How did it go?
Nebraska 34-3 against UNI. I will say UNI's offensive line much better football team than Colorado. They were ready. They played. This score does not look like it. But the first possession that ended in the only 3 points UNI scored, they had the ball for 11 minutes. It's a long damn time to have the football.
Jeez.
And they got 3 out of it. So
11 minutes. That
11 minutes.
Drive.
Nebraska did not blitz. They played base defense the entire time. They showed nothing for Illinois coming in later this week, for consecutive sellout number 400 in the 402. But Nebraska's offense, Raiola scores on the first 3 drives. They go for it on 4th and 3rd and miss. They miss a field goal opportunity. They left, Terry, probably 10 to 17 points on the board, honestly. But Matt Rule wanted them to be in situations like 4th and 3. We'll go get the 3rd down or go get the 3 yards because our defense isn't gonna do anything. And it's like he said at halftime. He said, "I was very calm. I just told him, look, you're not going to lose this game, but the tackling was very poor from the defense in the first half, and I'll get to that part in the preview for Illinois." But yeah, I mean, Dylan Raiola, 20 for 26. He was 11 for 12 in the first quarter or first half, or maybe through the second. He missed 1 pass and scored 21 points. The first 21 points, he was 11 for 12. 142, 6.5 rushing, Terry. Everybody's going to take that all day long. You're going to take that. And one of the things that Matt Rule says is he likes to get to lead and then be boring in the second half. Well, Nebraska's defense had a goal line stand, second team in the 4th quarter, did not allow UNI to get into the end zone. They also scored with Heinrich Harburg in the second half when Raiola was done for the night. This is a very capable football team that looks far different than it did last year. The 1 interception there was a contested ball that I thought tie goes to the runner. The referees called it an interception, but it was a deep pass 50 yards down the field. So it was basically the effect of a punt. particularly when you're playing Nebraska's defense. So anyway, it was a blowout like ball game. Nebraska left a lot of things on the table. They didn't do a lot of good things. They need to get cleaned up for Friday night.
All right. Yeah. But they are in the top 25 these days.
Number 22 in both polls.
Well, that's awesome. We're looking to see this game coming up because Illinois is looking pretty good this year.
Yeah, they're mirror images of each other, which, like I say, we'll get to the preview. I don't want to take up too much more time on these reviews because I think we're going a little bit long, but it's our show.
Then why don't we get to the Week 3 top 10? And thanks for everybody that voted. As always, we keep saying it, but it is a little bit of a struggle to get the poll out to people that don't already follow us. I think Twitter's a decent way to do that. Facebook has been a difficulty, and they don't like us because we put things out there and they take it down. They think we're breaking rules. So screw Facebook, but thanks for everybody that gets to it and votes. We'll keep trying different methods to get the information to you. But why don't we go ahead and talk about number 10, and we'll see the little extra effort I put in the graphics this week. Number 10, Oklahoma. And this might be a little hard to read. It's pretty small, but I'm putting the whole season schedule in there now. Oklahoma 3-0. They've beat Temple, Houston, and Tulane, but now they've got Tennessee coming to town this week.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to get too far into my commentary on that, but Oklahoma, the 10 spot, probably as high as they need to be and as high as they'll be all season. And I will explain that here in a minute. But the offensive line of Oklahoma had better figure out how to stop Tennessee's pass rush. Because the deal with Tennessee, Terry. You better match them score for score. They're going to make it a basketball game.
They're another team that could have scored triple digits this week.
Correct. So that's my thought on Oklahoma. Great team, great history, great program. Love the rivalry. Just their offensive line is the problem for them right now.
But, this will be an opportunity. Some of these teams haven't really played much of anybody, and this is one of them. But like you said, we'll talk more about that when we get to the preview. Number 9, Oregon, after showing up at Oregon State and winning 49-14. They struggled a little bit in the first couple of weeks. They get a bye week this week.
I figured they'd bounce a little bit higher than this based on that shelling that they put on Oregon State, and they did it in Corvallis.
Right.
They ran and ran and ran the ball, and guess what happens, Terry, when you run the ball? You don't put your quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, in a situation to get sacked. So,
right. And you keep running the clock.
Yeah, it's been the problem. So good for them. Good bounce back. They get the break, and then they've got UCLA, who I think will be the doormat of the Big Ten. If I'm honest with you, it's going to be UCLA or Washington.
Because Michigan State this year is looking pretty good.
Yeah,
they have really bounced back.
Yeah, Jonathan Smith's a good coach. They lost a lot, and they're dealing with some legal stuff. But anyway. I think we can move on to number 8, but I mean, I figured Oregon be a little higher than this, but it doesn't offend me.
But I mean, when you start looking at the other 8, you're like, I can see it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm with you. They're probably a little bit higher, but I think that they're going to have some opportunities to really prove it out, especially when it comes to October 12th against Ohio State. That'll be a game to look forward to.
In Eugene.
That's right.
So that's going to make that interesting.
Number 8, Missouri. So they have, first couple of games, they dominated lesser teams. And, we talked about that Boston College game. So that was a big win. Could have been a loss. Boston College came in there looking to beat them. Now they got a Vanderbilt team that after this weekend doesn't look nearly as good as we thought they might be after losing to Georgia State.
They lost 12 points on the field. I like Missouri's offense. I like their defense. They're well-disciplined, well-coached team. They're also playing in Columbia again.
Yep.
I have that correct, right? That's in Columbia again.
It is.
home field advantage matters, and that's going to be another theme that we talk about these weeks. I think when Georgia goes to Austin, I think when you see the Georgia Alabama game, I think it's in Tuscaloosa. May have that wrong. I know when the Iron Bowl happens, Auburn and Alabama, it's in Tuscaloosa.
Right.
Home field advantage is Illinois versus Nebraska this week. It's in Lincoln, and it's going to be sellout number 400. We'll get to that in the preview. But I mean, the home field advantage is going to matter. So I'm thinking Missouri's going to have a nice bounce back here because fucking Vandy sucks.
They do, and it's like, and we had a little bit of hope for them after they beat Virginia Tech. They ended up 2-0, and then they get beat by Georgia State, and it's like, nope, they're the same old Vandy.
Nope, same old Vandy.
But I will say they're better than Mississippi State probably.
Oh, now that's the thing. Mississippi State might be the new Vandy this year, but anyway, we're not going to be ringing any cowbells, I don't think, down there in Mississippi. Number 7,
Miami.
The U.
So they put it on Florida in the swamp, and they've had a couple of cupcakes since then. They head to South Florida this week, and South Florida is one of those teams that could sneak up on you. I don't remember if this is in our preview, honestly. Is this in our preview?
I don't think so.
I don't think it is. So, Miami looks real deal. I mean,
yeah, their quarterback's already being put on the Heisman watch, the Davy Camp watch, all of that stuff. He hasn't played a real pressure defense yet. We saw that South Florida played well against Alabama early.
Yeah.
And probably undeservingly. Let's be honest, Alabama should have never let South Florida stay in that game.
Right.
No disrespect to South Florida, but you just don't have the talent that Alabama does. I don't think the U is a better football team than Alabama, but home field advantage or not, Miami probably continues to roll.
Yeah, I think Miami and Tennessee, to me, even though, Miami went to the swamp and dominated Florida, okay, but we're seeing that Florida's not much. Miami and Tennessee may be similar teams this year to me, where it's going to be a couple of weeks. Well, I guess Tennessee's going to have Oklahoma this week, but the first few weeks they just dominated teams, and we're really not going to know until about a month into the season what they really have.
Well, and no disrespect to either South Florida, Virginia Tech, or California, but then you got Louisville and Florida State back-to-back, Duke, Georgia Tech. I mean, Miami has a very winnable schedule to get to the ACC championship without, too many injuries and that sort of thing. So we'll see. Right. I know that pains us both for me to say that out loud, Terry. Miami.
Absolutely. That's why I forgot about them earlier. I don't like to admit it. Number 6. Oh, and I just changed the pages on the notes instead of the slides. Tennessee, and there they are. Number 6 in our poll. Maybe should be a little bit higher, but, that's debatable. But like I said, they played UT Chattanooga, NC State, and Kent State, and totally blasted every one of these teams. But
Let's see what
Oklahoma this week.
Let's see what they do against Oklahoma and Norman.
Yeah.
I think Tennessee's offense is the real deal. Their defense seems to be pretty good. I mean, held NC State to 10. I'm not giving Chattanooga or Kent State anything. Okay, nothing. But NC State was a team we talked about with the potential to be dangerous in the ACC.
Right.
I don't know. Tennessee dog walked them, and it wasn't close. And then you look at this schedule: Oklahoma, Arkansas. They've got a capability. If you want to get into a shootout, Tennessee's the wrong football team to do that with. Florida, nah, bye.
Alabama, at Georgia this year, yeah.
Alabama and Georgia, those are going to be the key matchups you see Tennessee play this year.
Yep.
They don't get you guys at Auburn, Vandy, and Mississippi State. We talked about Kentucky could give them a little bit of a fight, but Tennessee's got 4 games left on that schedule.
Right.
Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky.
That's right. They look like they're geared up to win at least 2 of those 4.
Because I think Arkansas can't keep up with the pace of a Tennessee.
No, not at all.
That's all.
Not at all.
No.
But we'll see. Like you said, we haven't seen them play anybody with a pulse yet. But
Oklahoma's got a pulse, and it's in Norman, so we'll see.
This is going to be exciting. Let's go to number 5, and that is Ole Miss.
Another team.
And they are another team that hasn't really played much, and they're not playing much this week either because they're hosting Georgia Southern.
It'll be over before the second quarter. I mean, it'll be 50
we're not going to know.
Some obnoxious number. And until you get to Kentucky, South Carolina, LSU, you get those 3, 2 of which are away. We're not going to know anything about Ole Miss other than we know they can score, and score.
But I've compared them to Penn State
Yep.
in that they are a dominant team that always loses the big game. This is his opportunity to win some of these big games, but there's so much competition in the SEC. There's a lot of teams we're saying that about.
Well, and let's pause here just a second. Billy Napier will not be the head coach of Florida before the season is over. That's not a prediction. That's a spoiler.
Oh, that's coming.
As Paul Heyman would say, because he's going to take 2 or 3 or more of them lopsided ass whoopings, and they're going to be done in Gainesville.
I don't know. I don't know if
they already called a meeting. They already called a meeting or whatever Sunday morning. The speculation and rumor, people getting all pumped up. Let's bring Lane to Gainesville. Lane Kiffin has won 10-plus games in Oxford 2 out of the last 3 years, and nobody does that. He's a high-quality coach, like you said, Terry.
Yeah.
Has he not won the big one? I don't know that anybody in the SEC wants to see him with the resources that Florida could give him.
Not at all.
On the other hand, he's making $8.8 million a year, and he's contracted through 2029 to be the head coach of Ole Miss. He's got every recruit he wants. He got every transfer guy he wanted, and he has a very, very, very good football team.
He does.
I don't think you get him to commit to the University of Florida mid-season with Ole Miss the way they are right now. I don't think.
Yeah, that's the tough part. I mean, who do you get if you fire him? I mean, so if they fire him over the next 2 weeks or so,
yep,
in Florida, do you just
you're just going to put an interim guy in to be the placeholder until the end of the season? Yeah.
I don't know what else you can do. You can't bring anybody in that's active.
Lane Kiffin's a lot of things, but he wouldn't leave the team that he built with the intention of winning the SEC and playing for a national championship, because that's what he did. Yeah. And he plans to put it on LSU and South Carolina and Kentucky, and he'll have the chance once he gets done with this Georgia Southern nonsense. One thing I like about Lane's schedule, though, is if you look at the rest of it, the garbage games are out of the way. Yeah. That's all conference play now.
You know, it's funny because Hugh Freeze came out after the California game saying he would rather delay these games like Alabama A&M to further into the season. I'm not sure of his logic there, but I don't know. That was what he said.
Silly. Who's number 4?
Number 4 is Ohio State, sitting at 2-0 because they had a bye week after they beat Akron and Western Michigan, and they're playing Marshall this week. So another team that we're not going to see any competition against anytime soon.
But do not sleep on this schedule, Terry. Starting the 28th, Michigan State, Iowa, Oregon, by Nebraska, Penn State.
Yep.
You talk about the teeth of a schedule. Like you said, Michigan State's doing better than we thought they would.
Are.
Iowa, of course, is Iowa. They're going to play tough defense. They're going to run the ball. They're going to get Oregon in Eugene, and then they get my Nebraska Cornhuskers that should be 7-0 in Columbus before they tote that ass whooping. But I don't think they're going to get the same Nebraska team they thought they might get at the beginning of the season.
Of course.
And I don't think they're going to get the same team I thought they were going to get. But my point is, and then they play Penn State the week after. You get right there, that's the teeth of it. That's the teeth of that schedule. But, of course, they're going to put 50 on Marshall first.
Right. Yeah, and you say that's the teeth, but they, obviously they end with Michigan, and we talk about Michigan being lesser than, but if they're going to get up for a game, it's going to be Ohio State. But then that Indiana team's another one that's they've shown up so far this year. So
well, both those games are at home, so that favors the
it Buckeyes. Does. All right, let's look at number 3, Alabama. And like we said, Alabama's just putting it to whoever they're playing right now. But, they went to Wisconsin and won last week, like we said. But they are getting a bye week in anticipation of next week's game against Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah, Georgia. Then they got Vandy, South Carolina, Tennessee,
At
Missouri.
Tennessee. So
Yeah.
that'll be a game right there, that at Tennessee.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an easy schedule for them. The
And they
Tennessee
do go
game
to Norman a week before the Iron Bowl too.
Yeah, and the Iron Bowl, unless Auburn starts playing really well, may be disappointing for one half of this show.
And we will be purchasing some tickets for that later this week.
Yes, sir. Bottom line, though, Alabama Georgia is going to be the game everybody wants to see next week.
Yep.
I mentioned it in hour one of our show. Dave, Pondwater Dave Miller, the man himself, will be here next week because he picked the game that he wanted to preview along with the others, Alabama, Georgia. Right. So now they're hosting Georgia, so this isn't Tuscaloosa, but get healed up, get played, get the momentum off. I don't know if you'd want a bye week right before Georgia after the way they played in Wisconsin, though, but that's the way the schedule has fallen.
Well, they are both taking a bye week this week.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. All right, so number 2 is Georgia.
Number 2 is Georgia.
Rude. I didn't know that. I just said that out loud. But go ahead, Terry.
All right, so they got a bye week, like I said, before they head to Tuscaloosa, and you know Auburn. I think about Auburn's schedule and how it shapes up, but Georgia goes to Tuscaloosa and then they host Auburn, and Auburn's got a couple of those that are pretty good. With Alabama and with Georgia, they've got some road games right before they play the game against Auburn, and we'll take whatever we can get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Auburn, then they got Mississippi, then that Texas game. Ooh. You know, we thought the Florida game would be something because it usually is there in Jacksonville.
Oh, it's going to be nothing.
But damn, if that's not going to be a blood. And look, Billy Napier might not be the head coach of Florida in November 2nd.
They've got at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Followed by Tennessee in November.
And Georgia Tech is not a gimme this year.
No, not at all.
And it's the last game of the season when everybody should be the best version of their football team.
So, like we said, there's a bye week. We'll talk more about them next week as we preview the Georgia at Alabama game. But
I bet you game day will be in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, it's got to be. It's got to be.
Oh, number 1 with the bullet.
Number 1 is the Longhorns, and they, you know, quarterback gets hurt. They got another one. Don't worry about it. They are stacked, and they're rolling over whoever they play, which includes the defending national champions, obviously, in Ann Arbor, and put it to them. And, you know, Louisiana Monroe this week, that's going to be nothing. They got Mississippi State next, then a bye week, and then they got Oklahoma. So that'll be an interesting game. The first SEC version of Texas, Oklahoma.
Of the Red River Shootout, yeah. So Oklahoma, Georgia.
Followed by Georgia. Yes. Some of these sequences of games are interesting because Georgia's sitting there going, put it all out there against Oklahoma, and then we'll play you next week.
Yeah. And then Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, A&M. So the schedule favors them towards the end, I would say.
Yeah.
But that Oklahoma, Georgia back-to-back. And let's face it, Louisiana Monroe might as well give 50 to Texas before it ever gets started because Arch Manning is going to try to fight for the job that he didn't, you know.
Right.
I mean, he didn't do anything wrong, but, I mean, he's the backup quarterback. And, I mean.
He knows he's in a waiting stance here. He knows he's the guy when it's time for him to be the guy, but Ewers is there.
But this is also how dynasties are built.
Yeah.
When you have starting quarterbacks that could walk into any locker room in the country, and one of them, you have another one who is your backup, who could walk into almost any
right
team in the country's locker room. That's a good spot to be in if you are Texas.
But in 2024,
as long as you can keep Arch Manning.
Yeah, and in 2024, that's the difficulty. It's easy to leave. And you can go somewhere else and be the guy But the fact that he's a Manning, the fact that he's coached up by two uncles and a grandfather and a dad that have experience with a lot of this stuff.
Oh, and David Cutcliffe, the former coach at Duke, who is the personal quarterback coach for both Eli and Peyton Manning.
Right. Yeah, there's no coincidence that the guy that's actually staying as a backup, waiting his turn, is the one that has all those people in his family.
And not to mention, not that he would stay this long, Terry, but after this season, he's got 3 more years of eligibility minimum without a contestation from the NCAA.
So he's got plenty of time to showcase his talents.
So you want to run them down?
I do want to run them down, and then we'll go to this week. So number 10, Oklahoma. Number 9, Oregon. Number 8, Missouri. Number 7, Miami. Number 6, Tennessee. Number 5, Ole Miss. Number 4, Ohio State. Number 3, Alabama. Number 2, Georgia. And number 1, Texas. And to be honest, I looked at this and I said, man, our voters are really stacking the SEC. But then I looked at the AP poll and I was like, okay, well, so is the AP poll.
Yep. You are 100% correct, my man.
So let's talk about week 4. And we call this week 4 games we care about. I'll say that. I don't know that I care a tremendous amount about every one of these games, but these are the selections we thought that we would talk about today. And Friday night, we've got Illinois at Nebraska. Nebraska favored by, and I need to
8.5.
Need to make it bigger so I can read. I'm too old. I had it really small on the screen. There we go. Favored by 8.5. What are you thinking here, Andrew? I'll let you go first on this one.
Obviously, Nebraska's going to win this ball game. Sellout number 400. It's under the lights. It will be putting Nebraska 4-0 for the first time in God knows how long. I think 2016. You can fact check me. It's all right. But it's a mirror image of each other. Illinois is led by Brett Bielema, however you want to say his name. Former Wisconsin head coach, went to Arkansas, played for coach with Belichick, came back to college, went to Illinois after Lovie Smith was fired from the job. Plays great defense, good run game. Obviously, was the Wisconsin coach that embarrassed Nebraska's vaunted Pelini defenses. This is a different Nebraska football team. This team does not turn the ball over. Raiola had the one pick, but again, it was a contested throw that could have easily gone either way, in my opinion. What I want to see Friday night is more sizzle. We got plenty of steak. Yep. I want to see a little bit more sizzle because Nebraska's defense is going to do its job. Dylan Raiola is going to do his job. But what I want to see is Nebraska, if it's the polar bear on defense or if it's Raiola on offense or one of his supporting characters, pick Illinois up and break them over their knee. Give them one thing. You guys can't beat us. And we just proved it to you. Whether it's an over-the-top throw, a big-time sack, a goal line stance, I want to see a little more sizzle. Defensively, they got to tackle better because they're going to deal with a lot bigger running backs at Illinois than they dealt with in Northern Iowa. Offensively, Raiola, don't fear the blitz. Do your progressions. Do what you do. You're the number 1 quarterback in the country in 2024's class for a reason. Just play your game. Don't let the moment get too big. The one thing I like about him, Terry, at 19 years old, the moment really never has gotten too big for him yet. But this is the first big game,
right?
With Big Ten implications. So they just need to play their game. 1 quarter at a time, 1 play at a time. And I'd like to see Nebraska's defense put about 5 or 6 sacks up and just wreak havoc on that line of scrimmage.
We got a score prediction here.
Oh, yeah, give me Nebraska 31, Illinois 14.
Okay. I'll take Nebraska, maybe not by that much. I'll say 24-13.
Just keep this in mind. Consecutive sellout number 400 from 1962. This is all I'm saying. I know you smile and laugh every time I say that. The volume of that stadium Friday night, it's going to be outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to blow any decimal meter. You talk about the old Seattle Seahawk days when the damn stadium in Seattle was so loud. This stadium, it's going to be loud with 88,000 people in it Friday night. So, home field advantage, that's why I'm taking Nebraska as high, by 17 points because it's going to matter. And I think the defense shows up and actually scores. Let's put it that way, Terry. I think that Dylan's going to get some help from that defense to put him in good position.
All right.
So
let's move on.
I want to do this one because it's the Wolfies and Clemson, and I know it's 15.5 on the spread.
Right.
But I want to let everybody know that whenever Clemson and the Wolfpack play, these games get a little chippy. They get a little physical. There have been a few close ones. Terry, this is at Clemson, isn't it? This is in Death Valley?
Yep.
All right. Go ahead, my man. You're up first.
All right. So I think NC State's better than maybe we've seen this year. I think Clemson, we mentioned them as probably the second best team in the ACC. But I think NC State's going to have a little chip on their shoulder coming in. I think Clemson wins, but I don't think it's this 15.5 stuff. I think Clemson wins by touchdown here.
Dabo Swinney is a hell of a motivator, two-time national champion, AP Coach of the Year, and he has just seen Florida State go to 0-3. This is the first conference game. It's in Death Valley. It's a very difficult place to win. It's 12 o'clock noon. Give me Clemson by 30.
Your favorite number, 30.
My favorite number. Give me 30. But no, Clemson, big time. 4 touchdowns or more.
All right, let's head over to the Big Ten. We've got USC heading to Ann Arbor. Saturday, one of several games around 3:30. I don't know what all channels these are going to be on, but this is going to be a big one. USC at Michigan. USC favored by 6.5. I don't think much of Michigan this year, honestly. And I don't base it just on the Texas game. I think they had a closer game with Arkansas State than they should have had. I think USC is very good, probably more than they're getting credit for. And I think USC wins by 14.
Yeah, USC, the only team that scored on them is LSU. And they didn't burn the woods down. I like SC to go into Michigan in the big house. They've been in these hostile environments before. I think that Riley's going to have that. Lincoln Riley's going to have that offensive SC humming and strumming. I think Michigan has an identity crisis. Not trying to be funny. I just don't know that they know who they are. When you lost Jim Harbaugh, I was doing some talking in the group chat. You saw me and TJ going back and forth, and I just looked up Jim Harbaugh. Over 700 win-loss record in college and pro football. Terry, that's one hell of a coach that you're trying to replace with Jamal Harbaugh. And he is a player's coach. And for anybody that knows what I'm talking about, players believe in him. He's like Dion, and we haven't talked about Dion, but players believe in Jim Harbaugh. I don't think you have that same level of intensity for Moore at this point. They don't know who they are. They're playing at the backup quarterback is starting against SC on Saturday. He could shoot the lights out and win the game, and it wouldn't hurt my feelings. But give me SC by 17.
All right. We're thinking similar there. And then we head back to the ACC.
34-17, Terry, is the score.
Okay. I don't know that I was giving scores, just spreads. But
yeah, but give me 17. Yeah. Okay. Georgia Tech, Louisville, at Louisville. Louisville's 10.5. That might be a little generous. 10. I haven't seen much of Louisville. Terry, tell me about Louisville.
I think a lot about Georgia Tech here. And I don't know. I don't have all the info for Louisville in front of me, but I've seen a little more Georgia Tech, and I know they've got a loss, but I think they'll go in there, and they're going to be closer than that. I'm trying to decide if I'm picking Georgia Tech to win or not. Give me Louisville at home by a field goal.
Give me Georgia Tech at Louisville by a field goal.
All right, one of us had to do it.
Well, and the thing is, the reason I like it is because Georgia Tech runs the ball Plays a
Yeah.
good line of scrimmage play. I don't know enough about Louisville other than they love to throw the ball. It's the former Purdue coach, Jeff, somebody, I forget his name. He was the Big Ten Coach of the Year. Went to the Big Ten
Of
championship,
course. I normally know his name.
and he
Jeff
was in
Brom.
Jeff Brom, and he was in the ACC championship game last year, losing to Florida State. So it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. But I like Georgia Tech's ability to control the line of scrimmage in this one.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be gamey to fight this because, of course, they did have the loss to Boston College. They just beat my nephew's school, VMI, and it wasn't even close. The Virginia Military Institute paid them or got paid to play and lose to Georgia Tech. So that's a little cupcake game. They lost by like 60 or something. But I like Georgia Tech to control the line of scrimmage. Nice bounce back. Coming down to final plays. So give me Georgia Tech by 3. And I'm gonna go next. We got Arkansas and Auburn, and this is the game I actually want to watch because I've watched Auburn a little bit. I watched Arkansas in that outing against Oklahoma State and the man, how they let Oklahoma State come back 21. Your offense has proven to me that they have that ability. I don't know about the defense, but I'm a homer. You're my man.
Yeah.
Give me Auburn,
tough.
but I'm taking them by 6.
Okay.
I think it's 2 field goals, and that's all you're getting out of it. Because I think this one, Terry, has potential to be a basketball game. I mean, I think they can shoot the damn lights out on this one.
I think I'm going to take the 4. The spread, right? Money on the spread because, little concerns I've talked about, 2 weeks ago with the loss to Cal. The defense seemed to play pretty well. They made some adjustments. And the offense was just handing the ball over. This week, with a lesser opponent, the quarterback went out, made some smart decisions. They ran the ball. I think they'll do the same thing. I think they're going to run the ball. They're going to look at Hank Brown to make some smart decisions. They might give him some opportunities to throw it deep. I don't know what receivers will be playing, so that might be a factor. But I think at home, Auburn wins this by 4. I think if they were heading to Arkansas, it might be a different story. I think home field advantage gets them this 4 points.
Well, like you said, when you go to the Auburn Stadium, there's a big advantage that you have there.
Yep.
Teams talk about it. They talk about Georgia hates playing Auburn on the road. So,
but then New Mexico State came in and dominated them. So it is inconsistent. They've got to show up and they got to want it.
I think it's 6 points, and the reason I say that is I just think that you're going to have 2 really good offenses. Yeah. Because let's face it, Hugh Freeze is an offensive coordinator. I know he's the head coach, but he's calling the game. But he's going to be matching up against Petrino.
Right.
And Arkansas's defense let Oklahoma State back into that game.
Yeah.
I think they run the risk of doing the same thing with Auburn if they were to get a lead. So I'm going with Auburn. Give me the Tigers by 6, especially a Jordan Hare.
Right. And I'll take the 4. That's the spread. And let's move along to UCLA visiting LSU. And the spread is 22.5. And I know UCLA's not great, but does LSU have enough defense to beat anybody by 22.5 from a power conference?
My thing is UCLA is garbage. So, I mean, I know they're from the Big Ten, but they are not good. I think Brian Kelly wants to build on that win he had Saturday, and he needs to. They still need to find some defense. They need to get a pass rush. They need to control the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
But I can see LSU by 3 touchdowns. I'll take the Tigers by 20.
Okay. This is tough because you're right. UCLA is not great. But I
they have a first-year head coach because remember, Chip Kelly left UCLA, and some of the stuff went with him. Some of the players transferred out and all the other stuff.
Give me LSU by 17. I can't put a 20 up there.
You just don't like the Tigers.
I don't. All
right, up next.
I want some of these other SEC teams to be worse than they are. I'm just going to
my perpetually chronic problem of Utah has reemerged. This Cam Rising is got an infection or something. I read he's out.
Oh,
Oklahoma
that
State
guy can't stay on the field.
At Oklahoma State. Look, I picked Utah to win the Big 12.
Yeah.
They can lose this game and still win the Big 12. Give me the man by 10. I'm taking Okie State, and I'm taking them Oklahoma State because it's at home and it's without Cam Rising.
Yeah. Ooh, that's tough. See, I don't know what kind of backup they got this year. I haven't really looked at Utah a lot.
Well, they won 38-14 this past game, but they didn't play anybody to speak of.
This is tough because Oklahoma State's kind of tough too because they kind of played that close game, got behind against Arkansas. What does the man have up his sleeve or his cut off sleeves and his mullet?
And it's in Stillwater.
It
and
is
you
in
know how rowdy
Stillwater.
that is.
I'm not going as big as you. I'm going above the spread here. Give me Oklahoma State by 4.
Gotcha. Cal versus
Florida
the Seminoles, the Florida State Seminoles, the highly vaunted preseason Seminoles,
the
the
0-3
0-3 Seminoles at Doak. Sorry, Dave, correct me. Doak Stadium, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Cal is not a good football team. Florida State gets their first win, and I think Florida State gets their first win by less than a touchdown.
This is tough. It's at home, but we said that before. At home doesn't seem to be helping them out. I don't know. It's tough. I'm going Cal by a field goal.
There you go. There you go. My man.
Cal can run the ball.
Yeah, and Florida State's offensive line can't protect anybody or impose their will to run the ball.
And they picked the ball. Hey, look, they had a million interceptions against Auburn, and they got a quarterback at Florida State that has been giving up the ball too. So we may see more of that. I don't know.
Yeah, Florida State's not a good football team this year. That's the bottom line. And I hate to say it because, like I said, we picked them preseason, both of us.
Yeah, we did. Game of the week.
The game of the week, game day will be there, I would imagine, unless they're at SC in Michigan. I would think it's Tennessee, Oklahoma.
Right.
Unless they're showing favoritism or whatever. Tennessee in Norman. Josh Heupel returns home to the school that he led to a national championship. I believe it was him. In fact, I know it was him. The 1999 or the 2000 Sooners. Because Bobby Bowden won in 99. So, yeah, it was the 2000 Sooners. That game ended 13-2, Terry. For those of you playing along at home, Oklahoma beat Florida State 13-2 for the national championship. Bob Stoops' second year as the head coach at Oklahoma. They haven't won a national title since. But they've played for them. Tennessee by 21 in Norman. It is going to be a country ass whooping because Oklahoma is a pretender, not a contender.
You're going 21. I'm going 14. Boy, that's a big number you're throwing out there. I'm going to go 14 because I haven't seen Tennessee do it to somebody, and this is the first somebody. Even if they're a pretender, they're a lot better than what Tennessee's played so far. So give me 14.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, and I promised I'd do it. So congratulations to the top 3 here, and I hate every single one of these. I hate that they're on here. Sorry, guys, I'm jealous. I'm number 4. I didn't put myself on here though because I'm just putting the top 3. So the college pick'em. Those that joined, this is your only reminder. Like I said, I'm not going to continually remind you because if you forget to put your teams in, I'm going to hop over you. Timmy C is winning with a 20-10 record. Bryant is right on his heels with 19-11, and Mike Bober is at 18-12. Those are the top 3. And thanks for participating.
We absolutely appreciate it. We mean it. I'm 16 and 14 right now, which I think is rude. But if we go
I'm
on this show,
17 and 13, I think. Yeah.
oh, whatever. Is that what you are?
Yeah, I'm right
Oh,
behind Bober here. I think
yeah.
I'm tied with Allison's brother, maybe.
Yeah, and I'm tied with somebody too. So I am 16 and 14, which is almost offensive. But if you listen to this show, Terry and I get a lot more of them right than we get wrong. Then they go ahead and go on the ESPN app and we pick games like, who the hell is that? I don't even know what that abbreviation is. But these guys are killing it right now.
Yeah,
Congratulations, boys! It's week 3. Don't get too excited.
plenty of time to
Speaking of
catch up.
excited, we got to wrap up. But next week, Pondwater Dave of the infamous not Ric Flair's last match, where he counted Ric Flair's shoulders were down. He counted Jeff Jarrett out. Dave will be joining us, blind in one eye, can't see shit out of the other, slinging the Cheetos and the Fritos and everything else, and apparently
Doritos.
yelling "Roll Tide," and going to tell us why Georgia will fall to the mighty Alabama. And that'll be fun. So everybody, bring your drinks, buckle up. Dave is joining us next week, and we'll have special guests throughout the season. Hopefully his wife will join us. She's an Ole Miss fan. So I'm really hoping we get to one of the games. Lane is undefeated, and we get to
the big games that I keep saying that he can't win.
That he can't win.
She's going to come on for that. Uh-oh, sorry, Stephanie.
Yeah, because you know I am a Lane supporter. I really want to see him win, particularly because Oxford sucks. I mean, that's all it is. It's like, who wants to coach in Oxford? I mean, he'd be a lot better in Gainesville. But would he, considering what they've done in Gainesville in the last 20 years, other than Urban? But anyway, Terry, Dave's joining us next week. I know I'm excited, even if he is going to razz you and probably say Roll Tide more times than I have ever in a single hour.
That's okay, because who knows what Auburn's record is going to be next week. I may give up on football by that point. All right. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Allison. It's been a great night. Thanks, everybody that tuned in to us and sticking with us for 2 hours plus, because we went a little bit over. But there's so many good games to talk about now that football season is really geared up and going. And teams are not necessarily playing the high school opponents anymore. So we're seeing some good games, and we're looking forward to another good week, especially at 3:30 or 4 o'clock on Saturday, because I think every channel on the TV is going to have a game.
Yeah, every single one of them, buddy. Every single one. I'm looking forward to it. I love football season. It ends up being the deciding factor in what I do and I don't do in my calendar. As you know, 8 o'clock, Friday night. Don't call, don't write, and don't text. We're busy.
And possibly next week we will report how far away from the field that we end up getting tickets to the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa.
This is very true. We're going to
be
up in the
very
nose.
far, because I ain't spending the big bucks, so we're going to be way up there.
We'll be up top. You'll be up top, but they got a big video board, so it doesn't really matter. I had very good tickets in Mercedes-Benz, as you know.
We'll see what we can find. Maybe we'll find something good. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks everybody for listening. If you're listening to the audio eventually, and we're really hitting the stride on the football season now, so it's going to start getting good. Teams are going to start losing games they're not supposed to lose, and we're going to see who needs to stay in the top 10 and who needs to drop out. But thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Allison. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And be a champ this week, and whatever you do, see you next time.